You're listening to the Unsung Podcast, where we talk about classic albums and decide if they deserve that distinction. And we also talk about some unsung classics in the hopes of bringing them to a new audience. And at the end of it all, we let you decide if we were right or wrong. This is the Unsung Podcast. Welcome to episode 8 of the Unsung Podcast. On this week's episode, we are talking about At the Gates' seminal 1995 album, Slaughter of the Soul. But you probably already knew that, because if you listened last week, you know that's what we're going to talk about. It's also entirely possible that the only reason you're checking out this part of the podcast is because you want to know what the outcome of last week's show was. Well, I'm here to give you the answer. The public has decided that Joanna Newsom's Yeez deserves to go into our discography. So Joanna, welcome to our discography of all-time classic albums. Thank you to everybody who voted. We really appreciate it. Now, let's get dug into this episode as we talk about our first metal album, Slaughter of the Soul by At the Gates. Welcome to the Unsung Podcast. I am your host, Mark Fraser, and I'm joined by two questionable gentlemen.
To my left is David Weaver, a man who, much like myself, does a fine line in denim shirts with the sleeves rolled up.
The man to my right, I can't tell. His name is Chris Cusack, and I can't tell if he's got
Can't
sweat
tell what my name
patches as big as mine.
I've not got sweat patches.
I've got really big sweat
Oh,
patches.
it's pretty hot in here.
I've had too much coffee today. Caffeine makes me sweat.
Really?
Chris Cusack, does caffeine make you sweat?
It doesn't, and I drink a lot of caffeine.
Oh, there you are.
Not a lot makes me sweat. I've got some kind of weird...
So to the right
Sweat
of me
deficit.
is Chris Cusack, and not a lot makes him sweat.
There we go.
Should be the name
Should
of
have
your.
kept that for next time.
That should be the name of your first mixtape.
Quite dry, man.
I don't know if...
I meant hip hop mixtape.
All right, what record are we on to this
My hip-hop
bloody week?
mixtape's not going to be much to write home
No.
with.
No DJ Shadow anyway. On this episode, we are talking about Slaughter of the Soul by At the Gates.
Or Laughter of the Soul, if you've accidentally
Slaughter
rubbed
of the
off the
Soul. Slaughter, guys, Slaughter.
Okay, are we ready?
Go! Blinded in a world of fear.
Yep.
I picked this record because it's responsible for so much good and so much bad. And I guess we really need to talk about it because I like it a lot. But I also recognise that it's basically the one song for 12 tracks.
Yeah.
Wow, that's kind of true, yeah.
Not a bad thing.
Apart from the one that's instrumental, but yeah.
And those two that's instrumental, but the second one that's instrumental's got keyboards and kind of it's the same.
Yeah.
Last song on the record.
And then that first instrumental one's just like got that
Acoustic guitar thing.
crappy, undistorted guitar
Yeah.
on it. But you know,
It's all about distorted guitars. Now, a bit of context this record, because I was thinking about it the other day, is this came out in 1985 and was produced by a guy called Fredrik Norström, who also produced two of the other big Swedish melodic death metal records, which is In Flames, Jester the Race, which is arse-dull, by the way. It's so boring, it's actually unreal. And
Dark Tranquility.
Tranquility's the Gallery, which is pretty good, but more power metal than death metal, I thought.
Yeah.
Neither of them are as short as this record, which I think is its probably its biggest thing. It's just like it's like getting stabbed in the gut
By Bruce Dickinson.
by Booth Dickinson with a sore throat.
Well, it's like 38 minutes long, is it?
38, yeah. Everything that's ever been metalcore comes from this album.
Yeah. So I just make playlists all the time on Spotify. I've got a playlist from like 2010. That's how long I've had Spotify. And it's just called Arg, Blarg, Testosterone, Metal, Fuck. And so it's got the bands that it's got on it are As I Lay Dying, It Dies Today, Machine Head, Chimera, Trivium, Despised Icon, Your Demise, Unearth, All That Remains, Darkest Hour, Black Dahlia Murder, Devil Driver, The Agony Scene. Now, all of those bands have just stolen At the Gates riffs.
Yes.
Like, just all of those bands and so many more, like Suicide Silence, like when Bring Me the Horizon decided to become a real band, Trivium, Bullet for My Valentine, all of these bands, all they've done is just steal that dun, 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 that bit.
Do you never,
At the Gates.
you never get that thing though when you're reading through that playlist, for example, where you're like, bands are such knobs, man.
Yeah. A Despised Icon as I lay dying. That's a really good book though, have you read it?
Fucking nonsense.
William Faulkner.
I mean, and it's a bit like wrestling, you know. I can get there. You have to like suspend your disbelief and you know, accept it for what it is. But sometimes you just get jolted out of your little kind of like your little dream, and you're like, my God, this is stupid.
Metal like hardcore takes itself like impossibly seriously.
Yeah, way too seriously.
Yeah, which is much to its detriment, I think.
But also, do you know what? I also like, just going off on a tangent here. I also hate like joke metal, like metal bands
Like
that
Steel
are like,
Panther and stuff like that.
Yeah,
But you're
like-
a big fan of Party Cannon.
yeah, but they just play like proper grindcore.
Yeah, I know.
And it just so happens
It's tongue in
that-
cheek though.
Yeah, but that's it. They're doing proper metal, but like they just don't take themselves that
It's just-
seriously.
it's-
What?
It's like the
What metal
alt-right.
bands-
It's not tongue in cheek, but it's pretending to be tongue in cheek.
No, yeah, like what a lot of bands, metal bands, like joke metal bands, and they're like, we're going to be a funny metal band, and we're going to do fun metal, and then they take it really seriously, and it's like, no, you're missing the point.
There's
there.
a difference between being a band which is a joke metal band and a band which is a metal band with a sense of humour.
Yeah, exactly.
So Iron Maiden's a joke metal band, right?
I think they are now. No, but they like the thing about Iron Maiden is though, and we'll definitely talk about this at some point, is they've never really taken themselves
No, I can help
seriously as a band.
Yeah.
You
No,
know,
they're a joke metal band.
Yeah.
I mean, they go and run to the hills with the footage of like ancient westerns and stuff. They're not
Yeah,
like
that's it. They're like, oh fuck it, we'll
And
just
Eddie.
go mad with the imagery and everything.
Yeah.
Exactly. They're
They're a joke metal band.
they're having fun.
Hey, Megadeth's much more on the fence. I don't think he knew.
Fucking hate
He couldn't decide if he was a joke metal band or
No,
not.
Dave Mustaine is always going to take himself very seriously.
he's a parody of a human being, isn't he? I always
Yeah,
thought it was
exactly.
Is he, or is he just like super dry? You know, it's just like
I don't know.
you know, it's again, it's like the alt right.
Speaking of the
Is
alt-right,
that ironic? I can't tell. They can't tell. Nobody can tell, and that's the secret. That's how you get out of trouble. Is if nobody can tell if you're being ironic. Yeah, we're shit, but it's ironic, or is it?
so Slaughter of the Soul. This should be in the discography of Amazing Records because it is probably one of the most important metal records that's ever been written.
I would agree with that.
I am being informed of that. No, I'm gonna put my cards on the table here. I'm trying to act like I know what I'm talking about, but like
This is a new album.
yeah, this was relatively new to me, right? So much so that I didn't even know what fucking century this was made in, right? Literally, yeah. I didn't
Not
know what
this one.
millennium this was made in, quite literally. And I was like, what the fuck is this album? And yeah. So I mean, this again, a bit like going back to the DJ Shadow thing. Okay, I'm gonna have to kind of hear this, having already heard all the people that are ripping it off. And then now hear where they got that. And I can very much see where they got those ideas. Although I can very much see where these guys got their ideas as well. You know, the whole kind of melodic symphonic metal thing, but with like death metal rhythm sections. You know, it's like I can hear that, or at least the melody and the guitar. I don't mean symphonic in terms of violin arrangements, but
Yeah.
you know, yeah, that part of it is like you can hear where they got it. But yeah, I mean, you guys are talking about how so much of the metalcore scene came from this. Like, holy shit, yeah, you can really hear that. I mean, I can even really hear it I'm a big Cave-In fan, right? And through all their various incarnations, but when they, post sort of Antenna, when they started to go back into their nastier stuff, it's like, Jesus, now I can really hear huge chunks of this album. And the production's slightly different, I'll give it that, but like the actual approach, arrangement, I mean, it's more than just nods to it.
Yeah.
And it's like, wow, okay, man.
I mean, we said, I mentioned it in the Jane Doe episode for Converge as well, but there's a lot of the Gates riffs on that record as well.
Yeah,
they've just been
hearing that.
They've just been screwed up, and sometimes in Jane Doe, but they're in there.
I wouldn't fall out with the notion that maybe there's more at the Gates on some of their earlier, more metalcore stuff. I'm not sure I hear it on Jane Doe, because I think Jane Doe is the point where they stopped doing that. But yeah, I mean, certainly in some of the earlier, like Petition in the Empty Sky and stuff like that, yeah, I could probably believe that there's a bit more metalcore in that. Let's not go down it. Let's do a tangent so soon.
And there's a guitar sound as well on this record. There's like the metal guitar sound.
It's pretty stinking.
Yeah,
it's pretty scooped.
That's the way.
Scooping.
They love it. Like I was reading like they were doing interviews. I was reading some of the interviews, and I was like, and they're pretty down on the drum sound, which is I thought was pretty badass. But they love the guitar sound, which I thought was rotten.
This is
probably why I don't listen to metal.
This is the guitar sound that Cut Blue uses in all of his records. Just with a lot
you
more
are talking total pish there, but
no, that's absolutely true.
It's just the fucking.
It's the HM2 guitar tone. He uses that. He makes it sound better.
As a Kirk Ballou band, like we don't sound fuck all like this, and he doesn't use anything like this kind of equipment. Like that, like
he uses HM2s all the time.
I just don't hear it at all, man. I mean, the guy.
No, you've listened. Surely you've like heard Black Breath or Trap Them.
Yeah,
like that's
that kind of stuff.
But
that's just this.
Modern Life is War, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I think
scoop.
We must be getting different things from his back catalogue. I mean, stuff like Young Widows and stuff like that. I mean, that's all Kurt Ballou as well.
I know,
so let's not pigeonhole.
I think there's
two
different.
You can't
also,
do that.
This isn't the Converge episode.
Yes, you can't do that with Kurt Ballou anyway. You
Kurt Ballou has
really
like
pigeonhole
several different avenues, and he's got that big spacious, like sort of post-punk with massive balls sound. But then he's got this like, I'm just going to get the mids to absolute fuck sound as well. And a lot of metalcore stuff. And that comes from this record.
These guitars are really middling, man.
Because the other two records that we mentioned, the Dark Tranquility and the In Flames,
you don't have.
I just don't think
sound.
they've been nearly as influential in terms of a sound. All three bands were very influential in terms of like that riff. And
yes, that is a riff.
Yeah, it's very archetypal. I'll give you that. Like absolutely.
Yeah, but this is the one that I think this is of the three records. This is the one that's aged best. Doesn't sound like it's from 1995. It could basically be from any era, and it's the one that's just straightforward, no fucking messing. Here's just some absolute fucking punishing songs.
Yeah, I mean, I'm relatively new to this. I just think certainly on the week I've had with it, I'm not hearing it in some of the places you guys are hearing it, but I am hearing it in a hell of a lot of the other places. So I get that. I just don't want to over attribute it. In areas where it's maybe not quite as applicable. It's definitely had a big part to play in a hell of a lot of shit. I don't know if it needs the help in all these other ones. The Hydra Head thing, it's like the tone is very applicable to a lot of that kind of Hydra Head like stuff. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. That's why I think that's why it's after being discography, because it is that influential for better and worse.
Was it that influential at the time? That's like something.
Yeah, it's like a slow. It's one of those slow ones. I remember reading when I still read Kerrang when I was like 18, 19.
As of
it was
like
it was always one of those ones that guitarists in bands would mention. So you'd read an interview with Bullet for My Valentine, and like At the Gates would always be mentioned. All these bands found it somehow, and I remember when I was in high school, I was doing music, might have been standard grade music, and there was like my pal Peter, and he was just absolutely obsessed with like power metal and stuff, and he listened to In Flames and Children of Bodom pretty much constantly. And I think there's like a whole, I don't know how he found them, but like I think there's a whole generation of kids that stayed in their bedrooms and just learned to shred
and harmonize
and pinch harmonics. Listen to Children of Bodom, In Flames, and this is, I think, At the Gates is the one that sort of refined that best to a sort of perfect record.
I think a lot of post-hardcore bands from the early 2000s have taken a lot of stuff from the guitars on this record as well, like Feel for a Friend and From Autumn to Ashes, and anything that basically has like galloping, harmonised, riff that comes from those 3 bands, this era.
You think?
No.
I mean, like,
there's a lot. I think
my only concern here is that I don't have necessarily the pool of reference to draw from, but it seems like this is also very much a product of its influences, and I'm worried that we place a lot of these tones, for example, at the door of this album, when really this album, which came out in 95, may well have been lifting sounds from stuff that was from like almost 10 years earlier. I mean, they said
certainly
themselves,
they take a lot from Slayer, and
they wanted this to be
and
a Rain and Blood for the 90s. They said that, like, specifically, that's what they set out to make with this. They wanted to make the Rain and Blood for the 90s. In fact, I believe it was at Metal Injection. It was one place below Rain and Blood in their like most important metal albums, above Meshuggah and above Dream Theater.
Dream Theater. Fuck. I was about to defend Meshuggah, and then I heard Dream Theater, and I just want to cry.
Meshuggah are a good band as well, but
Meshuggah are a lot better than At the Gates.
Yeah, well,
Meshuggah have had a lot. They've had more ideas. You know, Meshuggah have like evolved as a band, and you know they were around the same time. They were in Sweden in early 90s.
Yeah, of course. One of their best records came from the same time. I can't remember the name of it.
Yeah,
though.
Destroy, Erase, Improve for a 9K Sphere.
Yeah.
But like they were way more interested in like rhythm, whereas these guys were interested in that sort of melody and harmony of like
these guys liked their tropes, man. I mean, they liked their metal tropes, and they kind of a lot of metal bands. That's a big part of metal is to not try and hide the tropes, is to just like wear them proudly. You know, it's like this is what we do, and we fucking love it. And that's kind of cool.
After At the Gates, they became the Haunted, and the Haunted are like
thrash version of At the Gates, basically.
Absolutely, yeah. The Haunted just sound like Slayer, but like really good. Like,
and then the singer went on to
like I love Slayer, like, and I can appreciate how influential they are. But like in terms of stuff post 2000, if you want to listen to heavy thrash music, you'd listen to Haunted over
and if
Slayer.
you want to listen to heavy thrash music without having to give money to Tom Araya,
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
If you have enjoyed this podcast, then please support us.
Why would you enjoy it?
Do you know there's some people out there that don't actually like music, or just don't give a fuck?
Joanna Newsom's family.
Oh yeah, that's right.
No, they did make it. They don't like TV. Sorry, guys.
Ruined that.
Don't sue us, Mr. and Mrs. Newsom.
You can pay for research like this.
You can pay for research and sparkling water if you go to www.unsongpod.net/donate and keep Chris in weird toe shoes.
I'm not sure. Yeah, well, again, like kind of as a bit of an outsider on it, like it's a really interesting listen. The track that stood out for me was Nausea. I really enjoyed that track. The rest of it, I was like, all right, whatever. But that was a tune that kind of connected. It's a little bit faster, a little bit more direct. It's pretty fast in general, but
I think Nausea is actually probably the closest to get to a beatdown on that record, opposed to get to hardcore.
Yeah,
on the records.
Yeah,
for me, Suicide Nation. When I first heard this record, that was a hook for me. When I got to Suicide Nation, I was like, "Fuck, I'm in. I'm all in."
That's funny. That's like the exact same as me. And do you know what? I never actually had this record for a long time. I found
just the files.
I just had files. You know, I had like 4.
Found the files in the street.
I had 4 MP3s
What's that?
from this. So I think I had Slaughter the Soul, Under Serpent Sun, Suicide Nation.
Blinded by Fear by any chance?
Yeah, it would have been actually. But like the one that on my 10-track MP3 player that had 32 megabytes on it, I'd always have Suicide Nation on it. Just because it's got that riff that, you know, that and then you just want to hear more of it all the fucking time because they just play it like the first 4 times and then they lower it the next bit and you're just like, oh, I need to hear that.
With repeated plays.
Yeah.
It's like a song called Captain Midnight in the Tomahawk album where they only did this amazing hook once in the damn song.
I know exact song you're talking about.
And you're like, what? I've got to go listen to that whole song again just
but it's
for
totally
the fucking money
worth
shot.
It. Yeah.
The solo on that's amazing, and the double kick towards the end, the way it builds up into it, all that is like, I think that's probably the jumping off point for a lot of these metalcore bands like Killswitch Engage. Like, they fucking just took every idea on this record and ran for it. Darkest Hour are basically an At the Gates tribute band but playing more hardcore. I fucking love Darkest Hour, so it's not a problem for me.
See, talking about solos, I was like reading that the song Cold, the solo in that was played by another guitarist, and the guitarist from At the Gates still can't play the solo.
That's amazing.
He was like, I still can't get it right. You know, it's like, because it's so technically good. Like it went down in some list of like the best solos.
It does come out of nowhere on the record because it does sound a bit out of place.
It's a different guy, and like the At the Gates guitarist was interviewed about it, and he's like, I absolutely love it, but I still can't play it right.
There is an ambition to this record, although we'd like talk about like the riff and like the tropes and stuff like that. Rhythmically, they do change it up. Halfway through a song, they'll just like completely change, you know, the tempo or like things like that. The beat that even like bands like Killswitch Engage, you know, 15 years later, all they ever do is like just halftime it or whatever. You know, whereas in this record, they're quite happy to just stick in a completely different rhythm. I think dynamically, there's not a lot of change on this record at all. It's just, that's your guitar tone. That's what it's going to be for 38 minutes constantly. So that's not where you're getting your, what's the word? That's not where you're getting your variety from. That's not where you're getting your variety from on the record. You're getting the variety from the...
I was on the edge of my seat there, but it's like, honestly, like I really can only imagine the scene in the room there. Me and Mark, mouths open, just staring.
Variety, that's the word we're after.
Weaver with his bottle of wine, his hand gestured like, where's this word?
Oh my god, I'm coming down. My life went in so many directions in the blink of an eye.
But yeah, I think they like, within that one sound that they have, they push it as, you know, within... Well... And this way.
Let me see that bottle.
I've reached peak.
Big Weaver.
Yeah, no, for me, they push it within a very tight set of boundaries. Whereas so many bands have like taken a small part of this and just done nothing with it. You know?
Well, we were talking about that in some of the, like, we were talking about that in relation to Jana Newsom. We talked about that in relation to DJ Shadow.
Yeah.
It's like bands that are either inspired by those records or are citing the same influences, but have been far less ambitious with what they seek to do with it. And I think, I mean, even as somebody coming at it fairly fresh, like I can hear that they've been a lot more focused and they've had a much stronger idea of what they wanted to create than the whole thing about wanting to do a Rain and Blood. I imagine a lot of bands want to do an equivalent of Rain and Blood, but also just the brevity of the album, the directness of it, not overstaying its welcome, just like really playing to the strengths of like, how is this going to be, like, how can we maximise the impact of this, and not get lost in the creative process, not get self-indulgent. That's pretty cool in a genre that can be prone to like self-indulgence. There's merit to that, and even as somebody who doesn't, I'm not massively into this record, but I can. It's not so long as it becomes offensive. You're like, that's all right. It's pretty cool. I noticed though, like, because one thing, I don't have a frame of references to the rest of their catalogue, and quite often when we're doing this, it's like, okay, this is a good album, but how does it compare to their other albums? And we had that thing with Idlewild where it was like it became largely about 100 Broken Windows as opposed to Remote Part. So I don't know how this compares to their other stuff. I do know that, is it Adrian Erlandson? Is that the guy's name? Is he the drummer?
Yeah.
I think it was him. It was either him or the guitarist had said that their favourite record was the previous one to this for the band.
That's also a good record. But the two records, this is a fourth record. The first two records are nothing to write.
Yeah, he wasn't particularly positive about them, but he said the one prior to this, which the name of which is totally escaping me right now, that was his favourite of their catalogue, as much as he felt this was obviously their standout, like most well recognised record. That was the one. It was a drummer that went to play Cradle of Filth, wasn't it? Yeah, for like 7 years or something like that.
And then, broke up after this record.
Yeah, but then they got back together again and did reunion shows.
They've got a new record
at War with Reality.
Do they?
Yeah. Was it last year? Maybe 2016?
Yeah, it was last year, 2016.
Wow. I need to get better at Google.
It's all right.
It's okay.
It's fine, but it's like they've just become another band that sound like them.
At the drive-in.
No, but like,
Oh,
you
hey
know
guys,
what I mean?
let's
It's
get
like
the band back
they
together.
sound like a metal
Trying to sound
band
like Muse.
that have At the Gates as a heavy influence.
Yeah. It's like that's the thing. Like if you're going to write a record and then break up after it, when you come back for it, if you're going to do another record, it's got to be the next thing.
That is absolutely I go back to this is going to become a recurring theme, but that is the main problem with most of these bands is they come back as a shit version of them, their young selves. Look at fucking Refused, like Driving, like all these bands coming back. Like guys, just fuck off and do something else, or go and get a job somewhere. Start a fucking upholstery business. It gives a shit. Stop making.
Keep playing the Haunted. Do you know what I mean? Keep being another band.
Yeah, like we don't need any more bad versions of your
Deceiver
previous
as well.
good record.
Yeah.
You know, it's like
There's like a few good bands came out of this band though. Like the Great Deceiver were great. There was a couple. I can't remember off the top of my head, but there's some interesting.
no doubt. But that's kind of that going back to that argument from the other episode is like that thing is like the Haunted was really cool.
Yeah.
Do something different. It doesn't have to be a massive departure, but kind of draw a line under one thing and do something else and keep adding to the artistic pile as opposed to just dousing the artistic pile in more piss. Yeah. You know, it's like just that process is why do people? I mean, I don't know. Okay.
The singer went on to form Dysphere, which are basically like a crusty kind of hardcore band.
Yeah, that's actually a pretty cool band. Like I really like that band, better than this, to be honest. But
it's like you're saying, like it's like you've done it, you cut your losses, you go and do something new. And that's totally what he did.
Yeah, I mean, it's just you can't recreate it. You can't recapture your fucking youth unless you've got some astonishing vision that has just gone unarticulated. Just do something else.
Sometimes it happens. Like thinking about this type of music, Carcass, a year and a half ago. Like Carcass are a band that were like never made it big as a thrash metal band, and then in, I think it was 2014 or 2015. Big, I know, but they were never like reached mainstream levels of success or whatever. Then in 2015, I think they released probably their best record, like out of nowhere. So sometimes. No,
you're right. There's undoubtedly exceptions to the rule,
and every single band thinks it's going to be them. So
yeah, but
I wish they didn't, but I understand why they do.
Yeah, we can name multiple bands that have done the opposite though. Mm-hmm. You know,
those bands that keep going and still keep trying interesting things like Deftones as well.
Deftones,
the records might not be.
Are Deftones still doing interesting things?
They're technically not doing the same thing over and over again, so they're they've
but is it any good?
I think
have
Gore's
they not been on a perpetual
I think we'll probably
slide
be
since
talking
White
about
Pony?
Deftones in a future episode. So
apparently we're going to be talking about Deftones.
As long as the album's White Pony, then I'm in. But anything else, you're getting.
But Diamond Eyes is really good, and
is it? Fuck.
I love that record.
No, Diamond Eyes is good, but it's not their defining record.
It's not.
It's not White Pony.
Yeah, I know, but that's a different discussion
the
for.
Record is
anyway. At the Gates.
At the Gates, yeah.
Yeah.
He did the right thing by splitting up, and they should have stayed split up basically.
But I've not heard this new record, so
it's okay.
I believe David. He's not generally known for making shit up.
You believe me? What I just said.
That
it's
the
fine.
new album is fine.
Yeah, it's fine.
It's I can just imagine them probably getting back together and going, do you know what? Like people seem to like this kind of stuff now, so why don't we do it?
Yeah, exactly. It must be fucking annoying.
Fucking horrible line of thought. You know what? People seem to like this.
No, but it must be fucking annoying.
Missed the point, though.
You come from
like.
You're a band in Sweden in 1995 and you put out this record and you fucking tour the toilets of Europe and you're like split up because you're like making absolutely no
fucking tour the toilets of Europe though,
at the Gates. I mean, they're not exactly fucking touring with
Swedish
fucking
Destiny was not,
like boo-hoo, man. They were
right. They were not making enough money to live off it.
No, I know, but like
right?
the whole
so like, and they go back and then they form all these other bands and then fucking 15 years later Bring Me the Horizon are playing the Hydro, and you look at that and you're like, basically, that's because of us.
No.
Surely you'd just be like, well, maybe we should just record an album.
That's bullshit. They looked at that and went, I want a piece of that.
Yeah.
That's
yeah, but surely if like in 15 years there's a band that sounds like fucking Outblinker playing the Hydro, you go like, oh, well, maybe we could just get together and make our record. Don't deny that that's fucking true.
I will not be drawn into a fight. Well, what I will say is, you know what? People like getting fried chicken, right? And that's what brought us all those fucking bullshit fried chicken outlets in the street. People like all kinds of garbage, and the whole notion that you should like do your thing because you know what people like, we can give that to them. You know, it's like, yeah, they did maybe lay the groundwork for bands like whoever, like Killswitch Engage to become big. Like, good on you, man. Be proud of that. Do something else. Be an innovator. Killswitch Engage, whatever, man. Half of these other bands, whatever, they're imitators. They're not innovators. Excuse the cliches, but At the Gates could at least be proud of that, and rather than just being like, I want a bit of that money that's going on at the
I would agree with that.
Fucking cheapens it, man.
But it's also, they're also fun. They're also kind of missing the point as well, because those bands are not just influenced by them, but they're also like listening to Earth Crisis and hardcore bands as well. And
Didn't get me
both
started
together.
on Earth Crisis, by the way.
Yeah, they're not a good band to talk about.
Honestly,
But
what a bunch of wankers.
the sound comes from there, though. Do you know what I mean? And like At the Gates going, oh, everybody likes that. It's like, well, not everybody likes one part of that. There's two or three, four different parts to the metalcore sound. You guys might have a big part in it. There's also the other moving parts which you guys probably never listened to. I don't think they sat down and listened to Black Flag and went, I want to write that with a Slayer record. That probably never happened. They probably still didn't think about that when they released a new album.
Yeah, I mean, I need a drink.
This record, though, as a standalone record, irregardless of influence,
Hugely influential.
Mm.
No arguments.
irregardless of influence,
Okay, you mean just on its own
just
merit?
on its own merits.
It's a fucking damn fine metal record.
If I want riffs, I'll put this album on. You know, if I want low, heavy, groovy riffs,
Low heavy.
I'll
Put on something
go
else.
and want to listen to Pantera and then go, oh fuck, I can't listen to them anymore because they're racist. But if I want fucking, fast, I don't know.
Some of the best-
This album just defines a sound for me.
Don't you
And I'm
think
like,
that maybe it takes a wee bit of racism to make really good metal? Just. I mean, Phil, Kerry, Tom, like all the Scandinavian guys, basically everybody in Scandinavia. Decapitated. Well, that wasn't racism. That was,
No, that was something a bit more nefarious.
Maybe you have
there's
to
quite a lot-
actually
there's like a lot of nice
walk
guys
the
doing
walk.
like nice rock, nice metal.
walk.
Whoa.
Trivium, they're not racist.
Yeah, Lost Prophets, proper metal.
Oh yeah, absolute best metal out, man.
The only metal band ever, or Lost Prophets.
Right, let's wrap this because I'm going to rapidly start saying things that were good.
So I think this is a damn fine metal record, and it stands out not only as being a good metal record, but it does one thing which a lot of metal records don't do, and it knows the value of brevity.
Yeah, absolutely.
Which I think is another reason why it should go in, because we can pick a Iron Maiden record and we could really like some of it. Most of us could maybe really like some of it, but it's still going to be too long. This is not too long, this record.
No, the first Iron Maiden record is perfect. It's only 8 songs long.
But don't you think
Those
if
songs take 8 minutes
you
long
have
each.
to,
Only
if you,
one of them's over 6 minutes.
if you have to
anyway.
lean into a microphone and go, this is not too long. This record.
I guess as a punk guy, I like brevity. Do you know what I mean? Like,
Me too. I like songs, but I can
just-
see that it's been hugely influential, and I'll give it props on that. But as a standalone bit of music, I'm not a huge fan.
I just went back and listened to it, and I was excited listening to it again. I was like, fuck, I remember listening to this the first time and just going, oh, I understand.
Mhm.
And I just want a fucking air drum to it. I want an air guitar to it. That's what metal should be about. Like that primal, childish urge just to go,
And racism.
and yeah.
And racism.
And I,
Yeah, but
I agree with Weaver.
Yeah.
You just said pretty much what I would say as well. Whenever I listen to it, I get excited, as we found out in the last episode. This record makes me excited.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I just like it a lot. I prefer this to so many other bands that are metal bands.
yeah.
If I could take one record away with me that was a metal record to Desert Island, it would be this one, no question.
Oh, high praise indeed.
I wouldn't go that far, but as a metalcore album, this is like the starting point, and I would take it over anything that copied it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Fair enough. So we've come at a bit of an impasse, I guess, I suppose.
It's an alright impasse. It's
That's
a
okay to
friendly
come to.
disagreement.
Yeah.
It's fine.
So if you agree or disagree with us, go on our Facebook page and vote if you want it to go into discography or not. We really appreciate you listening, so please give us a wee rating and review on iTunes if you could. We'd love that. On the next episode, we are talking about,
Trust by Low.
which should be fun.
Yeah, that'll be nice and fast.
Yeah.
My choice, and
Happy hardcore.
I've got the least to say about it.
Thanks, guys.